Hey guys, my name is Miska and welcome to HitScan. Today we're looking at some pick rates for the new patch. Of course, there's been this whole discussion about what the new meta is going to be after this massive shield anti-barrier nerf patch thing. And honestly, I feel like a lot of the predictions from everyone really have been fairly accurate, since a lot of the barriers were nerfed together at the same time in the same sort of ways. The characters we pick aren't necessarily that different, but there's definitely some changes there, along with how we play these heroes. To really dig into this, first we gotta talk about the previous Orisa Sigma thing that was going on, which is now much more of an Orisa Reinhardt thing. We've talked about this previously, and as we can see, recently Orisa's pick rate has dipped. These stats are from Overbuff. We can kind of take hero pick rate trends from Overbuff, but not necessarily exact stats. Either way, you can see what it used to be and what it is after the patch. Same thing with Sigma. Overall, we see quite a dip, but his pick rate was already a bit lower overall, not as popular as Orisa or even Reinhardt actually after previous Sigma nerfs. One thing that's interesting to note is that in higher tiers, people do definitely still pick Sigma. More than just a viable character, but even sometimes just preferred with Orisa. So Orisa Reinhardt, Orisa Sigma, definitely both still good, but just the popularity of these different characters have shifted, and Reinhardt has kind of more come into the spotlight across all tiers. It's fairly map dependent, of course, and depending on the team you play with and who's comfortable on what, but either way, instead of Orisa becoming the main character there, Reinhardt's kind of become the main character there. So Orisa pick rate down, Sigma pick rate somewhat down, but still fairly stabilized around that lower tier that he was kind of in. But Reinhardt is where the real numbers have pumped up. You can see that his pick rate has kind of exploded in a way, and it's fairly consistent, and he does still do well from win rate stats here as well. You gotta take that with a pinch of salt, but regardless, definitely a very popular character at the moment. In fact, if you look at Overbuff on pick rate top this week, you'll see that Reinhardt is in the top overall across all skill tiers on PC. Right, so the tank situation basically shifted from Orisa Sigma, those being focused slowly over time, Sigma disappearing, and now Reinhardt and Orisa kind of taking the spotlight, but mainly Reinhardt if you look at the game as a whole. Moving into supports is where we see a very interesting change in Baptiste. Baptiste used to be a fairly niche character that didn't actually do that well overall, but with buff after buff, and coming into this barrier busting meta, whatever you want to call it, Baptiste can now get that job done extremely fast, and the ultimate pairs so well. This has resulted in quite a bit of an increase in pick rate. You can see how it just goes up and up and up, and this is across all skill tiers, and it's probably gonna just keep going up for quite a bit longer because he's a very fun support to play as well. If you want to play a bit of DPS and a bit of support, then Baptiste's kind of a really nice middle ground, and on top of that, he does pump out quite a bit of heals, has a very impactful ultimate, just a very, very solid character across the board in the state we're in currently. With those main pick rates out of the way, the characters that have had the biggest sort of changes and trends in pick rate to them, I want to talk to ones that have kind of been affected by these heroes in return. Now, Zarya has been buffed a little bit, but I feel like the main reason as to why she's grown a bit in pick rate has also been because Reinhardt brings her up, as Reinhardt and Zarya is a pretty popular combo in certain skill tiers. It really again depends on the map, but even in Grandmaster there's definitely been an increase in Zarya play, but it really comes from the Reinhardt effect, and Reinhardt just heading into the spotlight more than Orisa. Other than these characters that I just mentioned though, there haven't actually really been any major swings. There's no sort of flavor of the month that you just have to play right now, other than probably Baptiste actually. He's probably the most meta-defining character right now, which I thought I would never really say, but yeah, now that we can break barriers faster, you kind of like supports and a bit of extra damage that can help out with that, and with Baptiste's gun and ultimate, it really makes him the main character to look at, in my opinion. If you look at the different periods of time and the characters defining the different metas, I would say that Baptiste is the main one right now. So what does this all mean for you who's watching this and play Overwatch fairly regularly and want to get into ranked matchmaking and hopefully use some of this information? Well, if you're not playing Baptiste already as a support, do pick him up and add him to your roster of heroes. He's definitely worth learning, and he's a lot of fun to learn. I don't play that much support myself, but whenever I do, it is really fun to play Baptiste, and I feel like a lot of people that are flexing between all the different roles seem to be enjoying Baptiste as well right now. Secondly, if you're playing tank, If you're in higher ranks, I feel like Wrecking Ball is a great character to also be able to play. But even if you're not playing at Master and Grandmaster, don't fall into that trap of just picking Reinhardt every game, because it seems like that character that's fairly easy to get used to in matchmaking. I feel like he's very good at bringing teams that are uncoordinated together, but if you're playing in Plat and you want to try and improve, you can't just be spamming Reinhardt every single game. Orisa is definitely a very strong pick still in certain maps as well. There's definitely situations where she can just outplay a Reinhardt in ways that he can't really control. But you're fairly free to play whatever you want in the tank role, other than of course Winston and D.Va, who are just doing extremely poorly right now. Honestly, so long as you avoid Winston D.Va and just focus on improving your overall skill on those other tanks, I think you will do just fine. It's all map dependent, it's all dependent on how your team is working and what you're comfortable with. But I think that's pretty much the best piece of advice you can give to a tank right now. There's not much more to it. And last but absolutely not least, DPS. I think there's quite a bit of creativity that can go into your DPS picks at the moment. Especially with Baptiste on your team, you don't necessarily need to play another hitscan character if that Baptiste player is feeling really comfortable on them. You can play other heroes instead that helps him out in case they do run something like a Pharah. But even just having Baptiste there means that when you pick up that McCree, you have two hitscan characters to click that Pharah out of the sky. Super useful. Say that you're not running either of those and you just want to run, say, double sniper with Widow and Hanzo, I think that's fine too. Doomfist, personally, I feel like in my games is very strong. And of course, Mei is someone that I'm sure we've all been seeing pop up a little bit more here and there across the last few months really, but even more so recently. All in all, DPS players should feel pretty comfortable with playing almost whatever it is that they want to play. Sombra doesn't seem to be doing very well right now. And we of course have the usual situational picks like Bastion and Torbjorn. But yeah, DPS players are pretty lucky here. I can't really complain with where we're at in the meta at the moment. I, as an Orisa player, feel like I have a bit of learning to do, as I'm so used to that old passive Orisa of putting down the shield and then just looking to always deal a bit of damage, looking for good pulls and communication with my team. And then I don't really have to worry about that shield anymore. Now, it's gone instantly, and you have to keep thinking about juggling your cooldowns correctly, and cooldown management between your fortification and your shield is just so key to the character all of a sudden, and it's thrown me off a little bit, not gonna lie. But as a whole, I think that's what most Orisa players also wanted, for the character to be a bit more active, so you have a bit more stuff to do, and it actually means that you feel like you have to stay active, and when you do stay very active and keep chipping away at enemy shields and just play those cooldowns right, then you do get rewarded. So I think honestly the meta right now is a very, very good one. I would just like to see Winston and D.Va come back into it a bit more, but hey, you can't really have everything, and as a tank player, that's something that I've been complaining about in every single video I've made for the past like half a year or so, so I'm sure you guys are sick of me talking about Winston and D.Va, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and yeah, if you want some more stats, go to overwatch.com and check it out yourself. Don't take the stats too literally, but do look at the trends in there. The exact numbers are always going to be a bit skewed since they're not looking at every single player's profile here. That's all. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.